The story begins with a vast and unforgiving landscape of the Arizona desert, where the intense heat of the sun reflects off the cracked, barren ground. The camera follows an old, rusty train cutting through the dust of the desert as it nears. A forgotten town, a town that for decades has been buried under the pages of history. Dusthaven, the name of this ghost town, now dissolves in the shadows of time. A narrator begins speaking with a deep and mysterious voice, evoking the distant sound of wind sweeping through abandoned ruins, echoing laments and forgotten secrets. The promise is clear. What happened in Dusthaven was never told, and the remnants of its past may be far more dangerous than anyone imagines. As the train approaches the town, the tension builds, and the protagonist, a lone wanderer, makes his first appearance. He is a man weathered by time, dressed in simple, worn clothes, with a determined look. He gazes out of the train window, his somber expression reflected in the glass as the sound of the train's whistle echoes across the vast desert. He knows Dusthaven is not just an abandoned town. Something much darker happened there, and he is about to uncover the truth. He carries with him a mysterious letter from an ancestor, someone who lived in that place and whose words were never forgotten. The letter mentions strange disappearances, people vanishing without a trace, something that was never explained. The train finally arrives at Dusthaven, and the wanderer steps out, setting foot on the cursed land for the first time. The ruins of the town are in absolute silence, with crumbling buildings and cold winds, moving broken wooden doors. There is no sign of life, but the air is thick with the feeling that something still lurks in the shadows. The protagonist moves toward the town square, where the remnants of a long-forgotten life remain: an old church with a fallen cross, a broken park bench, a deserted street that still seems to echo with conversations from the past. He feels an increasing pressure, as if the town is alive, watching him. In the distance, the sound of wind is the only thing heard, but he's about to discover that this deadly silence is merely a facade. The protagonist begins to explore Dusthaven, each step of his echoing through the ruins as he searches for clues about the disappearances. He finds an old library with broken shelves and dusty books, but among the yellowed pages something catches his attention: an ancient diary. The diary of one of the last inhabitants of the town, who describes increasingly strange events as time passes. The author speaks of a mysterious presence that seemed to haunt the town's shadowy figures that roamed the streets at night without explanation. The diary ends abruptly, as if the writer had been interrupted mid-sentence. The atmosphere grows heavier, and for the first time the wanderer feels as though something is watching him. What he doesn't know yet is that the souls of those who vanished continue to roam, trapped between the living and the dead. As the wanderer continues his investigations, he finds traces of a cult or secret society that existed in Dusthaven in the past, performing dark rituals on full moon nights. He discovers that a group of outlaws known as the Cursed made a pact with forces beyond human comprehension. Before being hanged in the town square, the men invoked a dark spirit, vowing to return for revenge on their deaths. The legend says that by making this pact, their souls were cursed, condemned to roam between worlds. Now their spirits continue to haunt the town, as if they were trapped in an invisible prison. The wanderer realizes that he is entering a territory where the line between the living and the dead is dangerously thin. As night falls and darkness takes over the town, the wanderer begins to realize he is no longer alone. Shadows start to move almost imperceptibly between the crumbling buildings. Distant screams can be heard in the distance, blending with the sound of wind that seems to whisper his name. The town, which once seemed abandoned, begins to reveal its true form, a prison of lost souls, eternally condemned to wander. He hears footsteps echoing behind him, but when he turns, no one is there. The presence is palpable, and the feeling of being watched intensifies. The wanderer now knows that to uncover the truth, he will have to face not only the town's mysteries, but also the vengeful souls who have never given up on their quest for justice. As the wanderer delves deeper into the town, he begins to piece together a deadly puzzle. He discovers that the only way to end the curse haunting Dusthaven is to confront the spirit of El Diablo, the leader of the cursed gang, on a full moon. Night. The protagonist finds the place where the pact was made, an old chapel in ruins now covered in strange symbols and dried blood marks. To face the dark spirit, the wanderer needs an ancient artifact, a cursed relic that can seal the pact between the living and the dead. However, the artifact is in the possession of a shadowy figure, the soul of El Diablo, who still rules the town with his vengeful power. The fight will not only be against the ghosts, but against the supernatural forces that keep the evil trapped there. As the protagonist draws closer to El Diablo, he begins to feel the weight of his own soul being pulled toward the abyss. El Diablo's presence is overwhelming, like an impending storm about to destroy everything around him. The air grows cold, and shadows begin to move on their own, attacking the wanderer from all directions. He must use the relic to summon El Diablo's spirit, but doing so risks being consumed by it. The battle turns into a psychological and spiritual confrontation, where the protagonist is not only fighting against the physical enemy, but also against his own emotions and fears. Every movement becomes a life or death game, and the boundary between worlds becomes increasingly unstable. As the confrontation reaches its climax, the protagonist is forced to make an impossible choice. He can destroy El Diablo and seal the curse, but at a terrible cost. To end the reign of the dark spirit, he must sacrifice something valuable, perhaps his own life or an essential part of his humanity. The battle reaches a frenzy, with Dusthaven's fate hanging by a thread. The wanderer, however, has already prepared for this moment, knowing that the sacrifice is part of the town's ancient legend. By making his choice, he faces not only the horrors of the past, but also the truth of what he is willing to lose to free those trapped in that cursed town. After the final battle, the town of Dusthaven seems to calm. El Diablo's spirit is defeated, and the curse that hung over the town begins to dissipate. The protagonist, exhausted and marked by the horrors he witnessed, walks alone through the town square. The ruins around him begin to disintegrate, as if time itself were finally taking hold of the place. However, as he looks to the horizon, he realizes that something still isn't right. Something in the town hasn't fully gone. The echoes of screams and laments from the town's former inhabitants still resonate, as if their souls are still trapped there, awaiting their final release. The wanderer realizes that although El Diablo has been defeated, the shadows of the past continue to haunt the town. Evil never fully leaves the places it has touched. The protagonist finds a quiet spot In the town, perhaps the old church, now completely collapsed, and sits, reflecting on everything that has happened. He realizes that although he defeated El Diablo and broke the curse that had kept the town's inhabitants trapped, what he really freed was a cycle that never fully breaks. The souls of Dusthaven's former residents are now free, but they continue to watch over the town. He feels that, in some way, he is forever connected to that place, as if his soul has been marked by the town and the forces that dwell there. The scars he carries are not only physical, but spiritual. As he walks away from the town, one last, disturbing sight appears before him. A new inhabitant approaches the town, unaware of what has happened, and unaware of the danger that now awaits him. The cycle is about to begin anew. The final shot of the film is a wide shot of Dusthaven, now once again immersed in the darkness of night. The ruins of the town are quiet, but distant screams and murmurs can be heard faintly. The camera slowly pulls away, revealing the town. From afar, lit only by the pale light of the moon. In the background, shadows move. The wind whispers something unintelligible. The sense that evil never truly left the town is palpable. The screen slowly fades to black, and the last sound we hear is the wail of a lost soul, echoing in the wind.